it goes live and I forget to hit the mute button first, So let's find out if Restream is streaming. It is. Yay. There we go. So, I wonder if you go live a few minutes early, if Restream doesn't broadcast it.
Oh, yeah.
I wonder if
You
you
want to
have to
wait.
go live right on that instant, right? You know what
Sure.
I mean? Oh, no, it's definitely up now. So there we go. There's always like a 20-second delay, so I'm always like wondering if we are live or if we're not live. So last week I didn't do a show. I've just been like burned out on all the BS, and I'm on a 30-day Facebook ban, as you know, Chris, and
Yes.
I had to go through a backup account to contact you, and they managed to get that backup account blocked as well.
Oh, wow.
So, and I don't even use it for anything but for, emergency type stuff. So,
Well, it worked out really well. Thankfully, it was open for that short stream that we can get that done. But yeah, crazy, crazy times. It's been absolute bizarro land. I think everything is done a big flip, and now up is down, down is up, and
well,
who knows
they'd
what's
been
going
working
on.
on, it reminds me of like, the old Ghostbusters films when they're like trying to release like the ghosts or the evil into the world, and they're
Mhm.
the all that stuff is happening, and so they literally invert the whole world to let all the evil spirits out. And you picked the title for tonight's show, which I thought was really fitting and funny. The perpetual emotion machine, rather than the perpetual motion machine.
Yeah. It seems to be like that's the ride that we're on, whether you wanted to get in the line or not. And it's getting so that, as I was saying earlier, it appears to me that there's an absolute abandonment of reason in favor of emotion. People are hyper emotional, very, very touchy. It seems that everybody has to have a bad guy. There's always, it's one or the other. There's no middle ground anywhere. It is, um, it just seems unreal to me. And logical fallacies at play. This whole COVID fear mongering and whatever's happening with that, even if there's a horrible virus, just the way that we're being treated with, like, now it's mandatory where I'm at to have to wear a mask if you're going into a commercial place. Last week it wasn't. This
Right.
thing's been
Yeah.
going on
And
for how many
and
months?
and the thing is we had all an influx of illegal immigrants up from the south, and then suddenly everybody is forced to wear a mask again. And it's like I never did wear a mask. The only time I've put one on was to go to the grocery store a few times, and then it's like quick in and out because I can't stand wearing
Yeah.
that stuff. And everybody's sick and tired of it. But, it's like 2 weeks ago when Steve Jones was on, we were talking about young Pharaoh's stuff and what he had been exposing and
Mhm.
looking into the whole history of that. And, like you said, up is down, down is up. The Democrats ran the KKK. The Democrats were the Confederates who lost the Civil War, etc. The Republican Party was founded by the blacks and a group of whites together in Texas. All of the 1800s black politicians, every single one of them were Republicans. And so people will claim, well, there was a switch. The parties switched places. No, that's not at all what happened. What happened was the Democrats founded the KKK, the Ku Klux Klan, and then they went around and they beat and murdered the blacks and the white Republicans to vote Democrat. You either vote Democrat or you will die or we will kill your family. That is the so-called switch. And it's been going on, since the beginning. But the Republicans and the Christians always take the blame and the fall for everything. It's like Islam ran the slave trade, and the Christians are blamed for it. And it's this stuff across the board. The KKK, as Lloyd and I showed, their book is called the Quran.
I was just going to
Quran.
say that.
Yeah.
And they're called, Christian white Christians. And meanwhile, their book is called the Quran.
Right. And it's like, okay, well, and going off emotion, I keep hearing these people, to put it nicely, talk about German fascism. And, it's like, okay, do you realize that the Germans were National Socialists like you and that the Italians were the
fascists, yes.
And they don't even have a basic understanding of history. So then we got hold of the Antifa manual a couple weeks ago, and it says right there that anybody who is a white male is the enemy, and they're against fascism and racism while they're spouting all this racist rhetoric, right?
And that's a huge issue.
And never mind that we fought and stopped the Nazis and the fascism, right?
Yes.
But the irony is they don't understand that all of these movements, Hitler, Trotsky, Lenin, Stalin, Mao, Pol Pot, you go through like the Sun, whatever they were called, Rising Sun or whatever. In Peru, you have Cuba, Vietnam, Laos, etc. All of these movements that took nearly 200 million lives in the last century were all 100% leftist movements.
Yep.
And who gets the blame for it? The right does.
It's the sinister left, and that's what they are, truly. And they are masters at deceit. And, even to the point of like a smaller issue, just to point out the mindset of the left, is that recently I saw Ocasio-Cortez posted something about boasting about how the youth on TikTok occupied all these seats at the Trump rally that they were.
You cut out there.
Oh, I'm sorry. Just Ocasio-Cortez, AOC, was posting. She tweeted out, how happy she was that people use TikTok, a Chinese app, to reserve seats for the Trump rally and occupy them, even though they weren't going to go, just to have empty seats in the stadium. And I'm thinking, like, you have to go underhand? If your ideas were so good, why wouldn't you just put your ideas forth and go on the merits of them instead of having these underhanded tactics?
It's violence
to sabotage somebody else's event. Like, it just seems so underhanded, and that's their mindset of the sinister left.
Right. It's all of this underhanded stuff. It's lying. It's deceit. It's beating people. Antifa. And there was an image of a dog, chasing and catching its tail as a representation of Antifa chasing fascists, but why can't they do their stuff above ground? Why can't we have a logical dialogue?
Exactly.
And what happens is facts, critical thinking, reason have gone out the window, and everything is based on emotion now. It's
yes. For the masses, that's the case. And for the sinister left, they operate on a by any means necessary mindset. So they're evil. That's evil. You would do anything. You will stomp a baby to death in front of its mother if that's what by any means necessary. They will go to any lengths to get their way. And this is the divide. So they lie. It is like very biblical. In fact, like this is the 7-headed monster. You have your leftist politicians and all the news media and the Facebook and Twitter and YouTube, all these different facets of this beast that's engulfing us, and they're using inverted logical fallacies like crazy. So many appeals. The BLM movement, that they can say that saying all lives matter is racist.
Right.
Is shocking, and that people
and then what they do is they then said Black Lives Matter first before all other lives matter. Well, if you look at the statistics, from my understanding, and I need to go back and verify this, but more cops were killed last year than blacks were killed by cops. And cops kill 2 or 3 times more white people on average than they do blacks. Sure. But yet, and then you're not allowed to talk about how blacks are 12, 13% of the population, but commit 50+% of all violent crime. And then what the left will do is they'll say, well, blacks, they are victims of white privilege.
Exactly.
It's
Yes.
always the victim card.
Hmm.
You can't ever be responsible for your own actions. Everything is the fault of someone else. And I used to work with this very conservative guy, Ken. He was a African-American guy. And back then I was more liberal leaning, and he and I used to get into it. And he was like, look, dude, that stuff's all bull crap. We're not the victims. You got to stand up and, do what's right. His brother was police. He was planning on going into the military, but these guys, the Antifa and the BLM people, they're using emotion. And then whenever you donate money to the BLM, it's going straight to the Democratic Party. So even that isn't being up front. They're using BLM to promote their agenda. And then you have like this guy, Joe Biden, who straight out says the N-word in his earlier talks, and trying to promoting racist ideologies, all the stuff that Black Lives Matter. Joe Biden 30 years ago bragged on the Senate floor that he put all of that stuff in place. And then this is who they have as their frontman. It's crazy.
Yeah. Shocking to me that anybody would think that somebody with such a long history in politics who's gotten absolutely nothing done except for being more divisive and lining his own pockets is going to offer something new in the future. It's absolutely shocking, and it's terribly sad with the BLM movement and all this. I posted on my Facebook recently, and I thought it was infantilizing that community. I think you're not treating these individuals as equals, and I feel that it's terribly sad because you're robbing people of their agency and their dignity. You get something so important, doing things for yourself and knowing you're capable. And these are all capable individuals. Like, the only person holding them back are the ones going, no, you're a victim, and we don't have really high expectations for you, and you don't have to be held to the same standards as us. And that's wrong. That's treating people unfairly. And it's terribly sad, because I know what it feels like to build up my internal fortitude, to be able to withstand some of these waves of backlash, because I try to align myself with reality and with the truth of the circumstance. And I don't want to be prejudiced. I don't consider myself to be. People are saying I don't have empathy, and I do have empathy. I have empathy for these individuals who are being treated as children. I know a lot of these, a lot of individuals, and I don't have POC friends. I don't have gay friends. I just have friends, and some of them are Black, and some of them are gay, and some of them might be gay, and I don't know, and I don't really care. But these are good people. They're capable people, and I don't want to rob them of what they have, they deservedly have. And I think that that's what we're doing to these people, and it's wrong. And I think, they're the ones who I think are wrong for making excuses and going out marching and thinking it's okay to destroy people's property, because you're angry because of
right. And then and then you look at George Floyd's thing. Okay, so that justifies killing 20 other people. That justifies burning down several cities. That justifies, and let's look at the history of George Floyd, career criminal.
Oh yeah.
He was when he died, they blood tested him. He had fentanyl and methamphetamine, and he was trying to pawn off counterfeit money. He had already spent 6 years in prison for holding a pregnant woman at gunpoint, putting the gun to her stomach. And that was like the 5th time he was in prison, And so this is who the left props up at, and you see these murals.
3 funerals.
Yeah. And meanwhile, nobody else can go to a funeral,
No.
but you see these murals of the guy with wings painted behind him,
I know.
And it's like, how is he the representative of the left culture? It's like, why not, why do they need to ban Young Pharaoh's videos for exposing this stuff? And then promote all of this hyperbole? But, just really quickly, I want to show this clip on screen here. Hold on just a second. And So this is Biden now. I want to know if this clip here is edited, this first clip. But hold on, I'm going to put and unfortunately, I don't think I have desktop audio. Let me see if I can capture desktop audio here. Oh, of course it's muted.
We don't need any more. We already have a nigger mayor. We don't need any more nigger big shots. I learned a lot, and I learned that and Corn Pop was a bad dude.
But here's this guy, this total racist. In this video, I recommend people watching it. Look this up, and I'll post it in the chat right now. It's pretty startling listening to what Joe Biden has to say, and then how all of this stuff, it gets blamed on Trump that he admits. It's just like the whole quid pro quo thing.
Oh yeah, I was just going to bring that up.
Joe Biden did it, and then Trump
did it.
Joe Biden actually did it.
Yeah.
And he admits it on video, and then Trump gets the blame. Joe Biden did it here, and Trump gets the blame.
Exactly. It's shocking to me that, the idea that these blatant contradictions, blatant hypocrisy, it's just allowed to slide. Joe Biden sitting at the Council on Foreign Relations, bragging about how he told, the then president or prime minister or whatever it was of Ukraine that, you better get rid of that prosecutor or you're not getting that $1 billion. And though they impeached Trump over the same thing, and his transcripts don't even have anything to do with that. It's shocking to me. And yet people are so angry at Donald Trump for some odd reason. And he's done more things in the 4 years than Biden's ever done.
Who did the prison reform? It was Trump. Who did nothing? Obama and Biden. You know,
they put in the cages that they put the little kids in. They
blame that on Trump. Yeah. It's
great, Jesus, unreal. They spy on the guy. I was never a Trump guy. I didn't watch his reality show. I had nothing to do.
I never watched it either. Other than I think he's really funny, and I love how he pisses off the left. The guy makes me laugh.
Respect him. He punches back. He doesn't take it laying down. That's he's a man. He doesn't sit around and cry in the corner. He comes back out swinging, and good on him, man. I have respect. That's respectful.
But, you must be a racist, and that's another thing. It's like anything you say, it's just ad hominem. Well, you're a racist.
Exactly.
Or you're a misogynist. Oh, you didn't vote for Elizabeth Warren. You must be a misogynist because she's wonderful. Never mind that she has all these Second Amendment, anti-Second Amendment bills going. Never mind that she's pro-murdering babies, and all of this kind of stuff. We must be misogynist if we didn't vote for her. That's, one of my cousin's logic is everybody, including women who didn't vote for Elizabeth Warren, is a misogynist. No joke. Wow. That's my cousin actually goes around saying this stuff. And you cannot reason with these people. It's, it's completely bereft of fact. So I had been in conversation with doctors who were literally prescribing hydroxychloroquine for COVID patients, the 2 severe ones that they had, and they saw dramatic benefit. And I was telling my cousin this, and she just sat there laughing, ha ha ha, Trump should be muzzled for promoting drugs that aren't approved by the FDA. That was her response, and I'm literally talking to physicians every day on the ground. But, everything was appeal to ridicule, ad hominem attack. Yeah. And this is within my own family.
Authority, right?
Right.
Oh yeah. Well, I have the same thing, because of and again, I don't want to come down on anybody. The people I've been interacting with, they're all really good people. I don't think they're bad people, but the road to hell is paved with good intentions. And a lot of these good intentioned people, I think, are missing, they're wrapped up in emotion. They're allowing these fallacious ideas to take over. And we see what happens. It gets violent, it gets ugly, and it gets destructive. And I don't see a lot of these people who are pro, oh, well, it's just properties, but someone lost their life. I don't see you offering your property to be destroyed by the angry mob. Mob, if you listen to fools, mob rules, and it's true. The mobs are not where you want to go.
Bernard C in
Sorry.
Bernard C in the chat is trying to figure out what I am. Is he a plain old conservative or what? Well, anybody who's watched the show knows I used to be liberal, and then as my son grew up, you mature. There's an old saying, if you're not a liberal in your 20s, you don't have a heart. If you're still a liberal in your 40s, you don't have a brain. And so, if you're still a liberal in your 40s, folks, you don't have a brain. We've been dealing with these protests in our town here.
Yes.
And I got into a conversation with this old lady, and the Republicans, they're evil, and and they want to genocide everybody. And I walk up to her and I say, well, did you know that every major genocide for the last 200 years was committed by the left? Well, what about the corporate genocide and the Nazi fascists? I said, well, actually, the fascists were Italian, and the Nazis were National Socialists. And but the left has literally committed all of these genocides. Well, what about Trump's preparing for a genocide? What genocide is he preparing for? Well, Black Lives Matter. It's like, well, if Black Lives Matter, then why do you vote for liberal politicians who then promote abortion and put Planned Parenthood centers in black neighborhoods if Black Lives Matter? And she went and just sat there for like just 30 seconds with a blank look on her face, had no comeback. It all of a sudden it started hitting her, and it's like, look.
That's the thing, and that's the typical brain melt at that point in time. And then the emotion kicks in, and then it becomes like, I'm just going to scream louder, and if I do that, it'll be more real. And I don't know that's not a very successful, move, if you ask me. It's very sad because it's like you say, with these movements and with these people, like the left has, not only is it involved in all these these genocides, which are absolutely horrible, but it's always involved in underhanded things. Even like the Fabian socialists, their symbol is a wolf in sheep's clothing.
Used to be, it's now devious. They've changed it. Yeah.
Well, yes, but devious, underhanded, sneaky, and that's what you get, and it's these we're being pushed into that ideological subversion state of crisis, right before normalization happens, which I don't want to normalize into Chaz or Chad or Chop or whatever the heck they call it now. So this is where we're headed with these grown adults, actually, and these children taking over a few blocks of the city, and nobody's doing anything about it. It's shocking to me that we're in this.
And this is what Aldous Huxley and these Fabian socialists wanted.
Exactly.
See, the Fabian, the socialists, when they went and toured Europe after World War I and World War II, they saw the mass carnage everywhere that their government systems had perpetrated on humanity. So they needed to come up with a method of soft kill, get people to eugenicize their own families, make people believe that there is no truth, that reality is not real, that everything is based on primacy of consciousness, and it's whatever energy you put out and all of this stuff. So, Aldous Huxley and George Orwell and all of these other Fabian socialists, David Rockefeller, Annie Besant, all of these people in here. These were the people that when they toured Europe and then Soviet Union and saw that the left had mass murdered 40 million Europeans, 40 some million Chinese and Asians, the estimate between 1900 and 1999 is between 148 and 202 million people. And so when they saw all of this carnage, they were like, okay, well, we need to find a way to soft kill, because that was too much. And even they couldn't believe the carnage that their own beliefs had caused, that they were putting out. But what's interesting is, as you sit back and you watch Antifa, which is, they are exactly what the Nazis were doing, like the Nazi youth going around beating people's, forcing them into submission, all this stuff. You can see this is the beginnings of the dehumanizing process that is at the beginning of every leftist mass genocide. So their next target will be, as they call it, cisgen white males and Christians. That will be the next target. And they, these people don't ever study Islamic texts, so the Muslims must be victims to the cisgen male.
Of course.
And
and that's something that is something that I'm very frustrated with, because again, I have great empathy for the Muslim. I do, for the individual Muslim, because I've done a great deal of research into Islam, and so I can appreciate it must be absolutely horrible to be in an ideology that will kill you, or at least disown you, if you leave it, and having your family and your friends and everybody, it must be extremely difficult. So I have a great empathy, and especially if you're a good person who cares about people, but you're, in Islam, women are worth half the testimony of a male, so it's worth half. If you're a loving gay person, you can end up, being thrown off of a roof. If you just want to have sex with boys, that's okay, or goats, it's not a problem. But it's just such a bizarre and very sad situation. And people that I talk to get, they'll be insulted. Like, how do you say these things? Like, why? That's so wrong of you to do that. And I'm like, no, I'm being respectful. I'm taking these people at their word. Like, I'm not making up or projecting my impression. Like, they're capable individuals, and they're fierce warriors, and they've been around for 1400 years, and they haven't stopped any. They've been at jihad for the entire time. They have not stopped once. So no, maybe you should be respectful and look into this and actually take these people at their word.
Well,
they mean what they say.
It's like people actually believe.
Disrespectful.
Exactly. And people actually believe that, despite the 500 Islamic invasions into Europe before the Crusades that caused the Crusades to push Islam back into the Middle East, besides that, people actually believe that the Muslims needed Barbara Specter to get them into Europe. Like Islam wouldn't be in Europe today if it wasn't for Barbara Specter. This is the wild, pathological nonsense that these people believe.
Yeah, it's just that mindset of oh, you don't understand. It's like watching what's his name, Ari Horowitz. He goes around interviewing people on the left, and then he'll say, hey, are voter ID laws, are they racist? And all these people at Berkeley, all these white people, oh yeah, they're really racist. And goes to Harlem, are they, talking to?
Oh, I lost you again. You still there? Go ahead and repeat that last little bit.
No, I'm just saying, like, he would go around and interview like white liberals in California about voter ID laws if they thought they were racist, and they would think, they all said, yeah, these are racist. And then people in Harlem, he'd interview them, and they'd say, no, I carry ID. Of course I carry it. Everyone I know who carries ID. And it's just this expectation for lesser. Like, they're not capable of. They don't have data on their phone. Like, they just make these presumptions that are just insulting, and they don't mean it, but it's still insulting. Or perhaps they don't mean it overtly, but it is ultimately, I see it as being insulting. And I think, Jesus, at what point are we going to start treating people equally? Can we not just be equal? We have equal rights, we should be sharing equal dignity. Should we not? It's terribly sad. It just really is. It's shocking. Everything is flipping around. White privilege. Oh, you don't understand this. You have white privilege. No, you know what? Maybe two-parent privilege. I'll say I have that.
Yeah. Well, and that's okay. So don't get divorced. So whose fault is that except your own parents for getting a divorce?
Exactly.
And so it's like, okay, so I was privileged because my parents worked hard, and but my parents, in my case, my parents did get divorced when I was 9. So it's like what do you say to someone who has 5 kids to 5 baby daddies, you know?
Right.
And
Exactly.
other than, you know, maybe sit down and read the Bible and learn what it says about that, you know?
Absolutely.
And
And that's a huge
why
thing.
following the path of righteousness was important. You know, so and the irony to me is that the left attacks the two things that give them the freedom to whine, bitch, and complain about everything. They attack
Hmm.
firearms and the Second Amendment and the
Yeah.
Bible. That's where their freedom to whine, bitch, and complain comes from. And they don't even understand that. But, you know, in the United States, since January, it's been nonstop record gun sales, and most of them are to leftists. And, but, you know, so we've had 15 million gun sales in the United States since January. So that's what, like, that's like
A lot of guns.
that's like 5% of the population has bought a gun since January. And, you know, but what they don't understand is the act of buying a gun is even the very first step. And there's somebody in the chat right now that, and I'm not going to say your name, but I taught them to shoot several years ago, and they were like a full-blown liberal. And by the time they pulled the trigger the second or third time, they had that, wow, I get it now. And, you know, the light bulb went off, and within like a year, they were conservative, they were Christian, their whole outlook on everything changed. And, you know, so, but what these people don't understand is that when you go out and you buy a gun, sure, you might think that you can hold on to your liberal ideology for a little bit, and some of them will. But the vast majority of them, that's the first major step in becoming a conservative, is taking responsibility for your
For
own,
your
for
safety.
yourself
Yep.
and your family's
Yep.
safety,
Hmm.
you know, and not relying on somebody else and saying only they should have guns and we shouldn't have guns. So now a lot of these people are waking up and realizing, oh, there is a reason for the Second Amendment.
Yeah. And now that they're trying to defund the police, you know, it might not be a bad idea to arm yourself over.
So
You know, and it's crazy.
apparently Bernard thinks this episode is about National Socialism. If you go in the database, Bernard, under Nazis, you can read a whole paper that debunks National Socialism and communism and fascism and all that horse shit. So I recommend you go there. I believe it's under Nazis. It should be in there. But let me see. Nazi eugenics, Nazi propaganda. Let's see. I'm just going to look for this here for a second. Third Reich Nazis. It should be under that, maybe. Yeah, Hitler's socialism, defeating the counter arguments. It's right down here at the bottom. So I recommend everybody read that. And, you know, for those of you who are socialists, if you have the brain capacity to think and read this, and you'll see that it completely debunks socialism and National Socialism and fascism and communism and all of that leftist nonsense that's led to every mass genocide for the last, you know, couple of 100 years at least. So,
Yep. Well, you know, no sanctity of life when you're an atheist, right? And there's no God in socialism. So,
right.
and
Well,
it's
you
a
know, and
horrible
isn't
thing.
that the truth? They, you know, the first thing they do. And look around you. Have any churches been open for the last 4 months?
I know. Nope. Nope.
So the
Nope.
restaurants, everything else is allowed to be open, but the First Amendment is still shut down. And what gets me is if any one of these large churches, if any one of them stood up and fought for the First Amendment, this crap would be over immediately. But all of them, except for a handful,
Lockstep.
all of
Yeah.
them rolled over. And that's what makes me more nauseous than anything. You know, so they are literally saying God and church is illegal. Logos is illegal.
Yep. Yep. Lockstep. Everybody right in line. You know, a lot of crazy things going on with that. Even the Event 201 whole thing was very fishy. But, you know, you're right about the fact that once you, I think when you put a sanctity of life, when you believe that their life has value, you know, that to me is when you lose that, and I think the left has really lost that. I don't think they really care. They're happy, they take joy in seeing Trump fail. They lie about it all the time, always trying to make the guy look bad.
And going back to that, why if CNN and MSNBC and all, the Atlantic, all these leftist, spew holes, why do they need to lie and spin every detail of the news if there was any truth in what they were doing?
Exactly.
It's like they'll take, and somebody was telling me about the babies, this meme that went around, and it was a white baby and a black baby running down the street, and then so of course it was all clipped so that the left could make it look racist. Like even an infant white child is racist chasing this black baby down the street. And of course, when you see the full clip, which of course they tried to scrub everywhere, it was showing the two playing and hugging, and then they were playing like toy swords or whatever, and then one is running down the street. But you don't get the full picture. So, the leftist media has to use these snippets to lie and twist everything. So then when people look up the full version, you see, oh, the left is lying. And of course, CNN and all of these leftist fake news outlets, they, have to spin this stuff. And the irony is it was the left, the fake news, who in 2016 created the term fake news to shut down outlets like this one for exposing Pizzagate. Right. And then, do you remember that?
You.
And then,
thank you. Oh, yes.
And then Trump came out and spun it, flipped it right back on them. But they had come up with that PR campaign to get all of the alternative media shut down to kill the First Amendment.
And, and that's funny because the Pizzagate thing, I recall when that was prominent, and I recall there was an event where somebody showed up with a gun, shot it to the floor. There was no basement, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah,
it's all
perfectly,
a hoax and all
perfectly hit the computer.
Exactly. Well, I don't know if you're aware of this, but a few months ago, the FBI did a vault dump for the Finders. Are you familiar with the Finders?
It sounds familiar.
There was a group that was like this group. Two men were with a group of young kids in Florida, and they were well dressed, but the kids were in shambles. They're all dirty, and somebody called the cops, and they showed up and they arrested them, and it became a news story for about a week. And it turns out that they were located in Washington D.C. or somewhere out in the vicinity, and it was the leader was called the Game Finder or something like that. And it was a very weird. He was ex-military, some weird type of thing, and they were doing something with children, and then the story went away and it kind of vanished after that. And it was part of that whole satanic panic of the 80s. Well, this vault dump, just like there was, I guess, documents that showed up that have like showing all these tunnels underneath Washington, D.C. from like the 80s that the FBI knew about. It's like supports a lot of what was set up with the Pizzagate thing, that they found animal bones and all kinds of bizarre ritualistic things that were in these tunnels. So that kind of supported a lot of that Pizzagate. Every now and then I'll see people pipe up with, "Oh, remember that Pizzagate? Ha ha ha!" And I'm like, "Well,
yeah.
Look into the Finders."
Here's Peter Nagel. Zionism is the winner in this synthetic confusion. Never mind that we just finished talking about Islam and we did 27 shows exposing the bait and switch on that. You still have, and it's probably a fake sock account or something, but usually these clowns are. And what's interesting is YouTube recently blocked the ability to right click on the user's name and go to their channel to see
their information, see what they're all about.
Right.
Kind of do some
but so you get these people that are all selling the we should worry about 14.8 million Jews and not 1.8 billion Islamists. That and never mind, the Islamic texts clearly say that. Never mind that we went through the Talmud and all that stuff and found like one or two of those quotes true, and the other 57 were fake. Right. But it's amazing when I see guys like Peter, who are probably paid Islamic propagandists, to pop in and spew their their
Yeah.
lies, because you always have to create a a misdirection, a scapegoat, and that's how they
Absolutely.
do their cover.
Yep, the Jew is that's it, man. I mean, they
See,
get the brunt.
banks, media, academia, and never mind that Lloyd and I did the whole follow the money thing,
Yep.
and we showed
All the-
who was funding the media, who was funding academia. It was like Israel was like 38th on the list
yeah.
behind all these Islamic countries, but you have, guys like Peter Nagel who have never once cracked a book to verify any of this stuff. They just regurgitate it because, people like Ryan Dawson and Adam Green say it. So they're
Well,
they're going to be good little mouthpieces for the propaganda,
I just saw a video a friend sent me this morning. I think it was with Roger Waters of Pink Floyd spewing the same BS, and it's like, oh my God, just yeah, it's just so obvious this anti-Semitism that just coming flying out of this guy's mouth, and it's again, you're just looking at things and making sense of the information that we have available to us. That's why I'm so stymied by everything going on right now, because like, if you just look at things and just step back and unpack it all and just sit it in front of you, you have to come to some sense here. I mean, it can't, it's not leading to where you think it is. You're just walking in circles and you're getting more emotional.
That's what this guy Peter Nagel is doing. As you're saying, he's walking in circles. Well, Israel has proxies. Oh, well, don't you know that Islam was created by Israel, and the Islamists aren't responsible for anything they do? They're victims, It's always this, this whole victimization thing. They work by proxies. They don't have any facts to support this stuff. You do 50 hours of shows exposing how all of this is false and where to look up the real citations and everything. Lloyd and I and Todd and Sonia Azam, we spent a lot of time exposing all of this.
Absolutely. Very in depth. And I recall I remember talking to you about this early on, saying you should really look into this. I was reading the Robert Spencer, The History of Jihad. My mouth was on the ground. It was shocking. And it's around that time, I think you had already started working with Lloyd on some of these shows. And it was just, just it's worth your while knowing, and the citations are there for you to actually go and check yourself. And
now he's quoting the KGB's Elders of Zion as his evidence, which he's probably never read either. So bye, Peter. You're banned. You're too much stupid crammed into one person commenting.
Well, disinfo, goes a long way, and you got to keep those demons. You got to keep those horns nice and sharp, and yeah, it's very sad. It's
So
it's
we never did have one person bring up primary citations that proved anything that Lloyd and I did was wrong.
Right. And that's the big thing, asking for anybody to produce any kind of evidence is like almost like you're insulting them. I don't understand that. If you're going to make a claim, like a great claim recently, there's systemic racism, and I'm there in the U.S. You have a black president for 2 terms. You have how many black politicians, how many black mayors, how many black police chiefs, police officers? Like there's so many people in military, every.
Oh, but you're a racist.
I know, and it's just sad because again, like they deserve their accolades. They deserve to feel like they got there. Like affirmative action is robbing people of their of that internal feeling. Like, yeah, man, I made it here myself. That's the very important.
Well, in LA, if you want to have a contract with the city of LA, a business contract, a minority automatically gets the contract before a white male. If you're a woman or a minority, they automatically pick you before a white male. That is racism.
It's been like that in Canada for some time. My brother worked in Toronto at a bank, and he was overlooked. He had more qualifications than some other guy, but the guy was a different ethnicity. And these things happen all the time. It's just like, hey, man, nut up next time. Better luck next time. But these things, they've been happening for a while. And this whole reverse, let's just, hey, we're going to be equal, but just not right now. We're going to have to put our finger on the scale and just have to deal with it for now while we try to, it doesn't work. We either treat people equally now, or we don't treat people equally. And there is the fundamental divide there where I just don't think people get that. It's like, well, we have to treat these people because they're gay, so you have to watch out. And this guy's trans.
This group needs special. Everybody.
Yeah, exactly.
Everybody started out with the same rights and the same freedoms across the board. Don't kill. Don't murder. Don't.
Yeah. Exactly.
Don't treat people different. And then then gays, they get special rights. And then a guy decides he wants to wear a dress. So he needs special rights. And a horse decides to be a human one day, so the horse needs special rights, and
we're going to attack this guy here because he's not going to bake a cake for this guy over here, but you can't force so and so to do this because it's pick and choose. There's so many obvious contradictions at play in the treatment of different parties with different things, and it's just. At some point, I'm waiting for people just to go, hey, whoa, what's going on? And some people are, but there's a lot of people that are just, nope, it's racist. We're going to go march in our supremacy movement. Like BLM is supremacy. Feminism is supremacy. LGBTQ, yada, yada, that's supremacy. These are not.
Oh, but don't you know, if you're of these minorities, let's have a relativist fallacy. We can't be racist or bigoted because so they always
structure.
They always use a relativist. They always use a relativist fallacy to justify their actions every single time.
Exactly.
And then if you point out the relativist fallacy, well, you're a racist.
Sure.
You're a bigot. You're a misogynist. But it's okay. I mean, okay. So we must be racist while blacks have had Black Entertainment Channel, etc., for decades. But if you had White Entertainment Channel, that would be racist. But so the opposite is always allowed to be true.
Yes.
But obviously, all of that stuff is allowed to be, and everybody just gives it a nod. But then, so how is that being racist if it, okay, like you just said, we had a black president for 2 terms, but you're still a racist. Never mind that he was one of the worst presidents in history on his own merit, right?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Like, I mean, he had 2 tries and he wasn't I don't think he was a very effective president. People love him. He was a very good orator. He was a very good, great command for a lot of these people. They looked at, adoringly upon him and just waiting for his little driplets of words in his, we will have this cadence of way he delivered things. So he just kept you kind of like waiting for the next word to come in. But I don't think he was a very good president. In fact, I was pulling for him. I pull for every president. I pull for every leader because I want them to do a good job because I want to live in a good world. So I'm hoping that everyone is doing a good job every time. I'm like, I hope they do a good job. And when Trump came along, I'm like, I hope he does a good job. But honestly, people say he went around grabbing pussies or whatever. He didn't say that. That was number one for me. I'm like, he didn't actually say that. He said he could. He was talking to a guy saying, you won't believe that these women throw themselves at me. And I can believe that because he's a wealthy guy. So it doesn't strike me as being odd, and yet demonized. They take everything out of context, no matter what he does.
And what's, and you get all these misandrist women who are jealous because he didn't grab their pussy.
Yeah. Well, the great misandrist marches, with the pussy hats and the vile. We have the slut marches, vile. You get dressed up, in like next to nothing. Gay pride, like there's no pride. And we all know pride is like the deadliest of the 7 deadly sins. So maybe we shouldn't engage
when
in
I
pride,
logged into YouTube tonight, at the top of YouTube, right when I logged in to start setting up for, to put everything in for the show tonight, they had pride stuff at the top of the page, and it was like, wow, and But what is pride, folks? So let's look at pride here. Let's find out. So let's see.
Defining our terms,
The
are we?
first
Oh boy.
of the 7 deadly sins.
Yep.
The exhibition of this quality and attitude bearing conduct or treatment of others, arrogance, haughtiness, a consciousness or feeling of what is befitting or due oneself or one's position, which prevents a person from doing what he considers to be beneath him or unworthy of him, especially as a good quality, legitimate, honest, proper pride. Notice how they say proper pride.
Yep.
Also as mistaken or misspelled feeling, and then false pride. But pride and prejudice, let's see, the feeling of elation. Where'd it go? Hold on a second. Let's see. The feeling and pride of those who belongs, hence the best of a class, country, love, display, ostentation, worldly pride or ostentation, vainglory, applied to a peacock when presented with the tall, expanded, and the wings drooping. So, so somebody who's peacocking, that's pride. Usually that's considered, a derogatory term. So, the best, highest, most excellent, flourishing state or condition. And so sexual desire in females, pride, the group of lions, blah, blah, blah. What's funny, though, is when you look up stuff like, let's go, come on, what's the term? Diversity. Let's look up diversity,
Yes.
folks.
Oh, yes, to divide.
Right. So, of course, so for those of you who don't know, the root word of diversity is to divide. So we have a condition or quality of being diverse, different, varied, difference, unlikeliness. And then let's see, system applied. Hold on a second. There was a really good one here, if I recall. Divisive, divers. Okay, difference, oddness, wickedness, perversity. And then contrariety, disagreement, difference. See diverse. So let's go to diverse here. So diverse, to render, different, vary, change, diversity. To be low, or to be or grow diverse, different, varied, to vary, change, become diversified. To turn aside, diverge, diverted, rare. But, so you look at diversity in these words, and, why is the very first of diversité, 12th century, oddness or wickedness, perversity?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So contrariety to what is agreeable, good, or right, perverse, evil, mischief.
Wow.
So, it's like... And so what's interesting is you see Merriam-Webster, and Noah Webster is probably rolling in his grave, but they're announcing that they're going to be changing the word definitions to fit this new definition, and it's like, I wonder what the Oxford English Dictionary has to say on racism here. I've never looked that one up.
Well, I sent a message to Merriam-Webster's dictionary saying that you may want to amend also the definition of coward and put Merriam-Webster's dictionary for kowtowing to this pathetic new speak or whatever it is. This is absolutely horrible. When they're gonna now, are they gonna say, well, it's racism depends on the whatever it is they're saying, because they're marginalized.
Yeah, here's what racism says in the Oxford English Dictionary. A theory that distinctive human characteristics and abilities are determined by race. That's all it says.
That's it, eh?
That's
Wow.
it. So, and why is, so what's a race? A group of people, animals, plants connected by common descent or origin. So if you tend to stick to your own origins, that's bad, apparently. Let's see, the offspring or prosperity of a person, a set of children or descendants. So that's your race.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're for your family and your descendants and your own children, that's apparently racism. A tribe,
Yeah.
nation, or people regarded as of common stock. So, clearly when you start looking at the meaning of race, it has a very broad definition of like different groups of people. So do we just turn everything into a hodgepodge of, homogenization?
Well, that's
Or
the
would that
thing.
be
Yeah.
racist because the eugenicists want to get rid of all the races and have a mono race, right?
Yeah. Because at what point are you going to be, this is again, another wonderful contradiction that I can't help but get my head around, is the idea that we have to be diverse and love the diversity, yet you can't culturally appropriate anybody's culture. They can culturally appropriate other people's culture. Depends, some people can or not. But like Justin Trudeau, the walking contradiction, prime minister here in Canada, who is all pro-Islam, feminist, and pro-gay all at the same time, which again, it's just a shocking thing, where anybody who has any kind of knowledge about these things is just like, wow, this is such a massive contradiction, and yet he will say that, no mankind, we have people kind, and that
Well, man is a race, not
oh,
a gender.
exactly, yeah,
So and that gets spun too.
oh yeah, of course, and women, and where white privilege came from was from some women's study professor, apparently from like the mid 80s, and I'm sure there was a Y in there somewhere. But Justin Trudeau, he's Canada. We're against cultural appropriation. Like, they stop it at universities. They couldn't do some things where they would like wear Mexican stuff, or because it's culturally appropriating. But yet he'll go to India and put on the costumes. He's gone blackface. This guy changes his costume. Like, he is. It's okay for him, and that's what the thing with the left is that they can do it. It's okay. They're virtuous. You don't understand. We're virtuous. It's okay for us. It's okay for me to put blackface on, and it's okay for me to have sex with a 14-year-old student while I'm a teacher, and it's okay for me to grope a reporter who's trying to interview me, or whatever is like these alleged occurrences. Apparently, this is my understanding. So it's okay for him to do these things. He can go and dress up in culturally sensitive attire and go off and parade around. But anybody else would be demonized, and that's the hilarity of living in 2020 in North America, as trying to stay somewhat fixed and firmly adhere to reality and to truth. And it's shocking, and the backlash for just stating the obvious is unfreaking real, man. It's coming from everywhere. Just dodging these, it's something else, I'll tell you, and
by the way,
so anyway, yes.
I should say thank you, Chris, for also Chris, for those of you who don't know, for like what, 6-7 years now, you've been doing the images for the shows every week. So thank you so much.
Yeah. No, it's my pleasure. It's been a wonderful learning
well,
experience.
that idiot, who's that guy? Miles Mathis. He wrote a hit piece,
Yes.
and one of the, one of his evidences was my microphone, because somebody donated this microphone, and because it's a nice microphone, I must be dirty. And then he said that my images were too high quality, so therefore I must be dirty so thank you, Chris, for doing such a good job.
I appreciate it.
That someone with such a low IQ who does really shoddy research thinks that your images are evidence of some conspiracy and a microphone. That's the evidence he needed right there.
I'm very honored, and if he wants any work done, I mean, I'll send you a price sheet.
Right. So I wonder if he still has all those paintings of little girls up on his website or not.
He was doing that as well.
Oh yeah. Crazy. Oh yeah. Yeah. There was a whole lot of that.
Yeah, no, this is very sad. Again, and that's another thing. I start seeing that coming up every now and then, and it's been coming up. Um, it's been surfacing its head every now and then. I remember years ago when the whole Gamergate thing was going on, there was these stories at like Salon, like, oh, I'm a pedophile, but not a monster. And then it kind of squashed down a bit, and then it kind of resurfaces. And I just saw something the other day where like, oh, it's like some type of experiment in Germany where they deliberately put children with pedophiles for like an extended period of time to see if what would happen. And just shocking that, you know, responsible individuals would do stuff like this. And it just goes to reinforce the fact that human nature is consistent, and sometimes it goes deviant, and it doesn't matter what your station in life is. You could be a absolute professional in something and still be a twisted, deviant SOB. So, I mean, you know, and just because you have a profession, if you're a professional and you have an expertise in something, doesn't mean it's going to be a good idea, or that we should all agree. You know, how many professors or PhDs are telling us that, you know, white privilege exists, and that's not a racist comment? Or because like how many poor homeless white people are there that you know, that are not doing very well with their privileges?
Oh, sure. You know, it's like, yeah, you know, how many whites are out there struggling? How many white males every year commit suicide because they struggle so hard?
Yeah.
So the 51 Project says, I traveled to Africa by truck when I was younger, was on the border of Rwanda when the genocide began. 1.4 million people, slaughtered by their neighbors, all tribalism, Jungian projection. You know, but apparently white people brought genocide. You know, it's like I get these. I've had people actually say this to me when I was doing all the research on the psychedelic culture, and I have the Florentine Codex. You know, so at Montezuma's coronation, he had 8,000 slaves sacrificed, and he did it in front of the Spanish. You know, and that was like, you know, between 2,000 to 8,000 per day before and after his coronation. And the day of his coronation was 8,000 people were slaughtered, but these were slaves. And if you read the Florentine Codex, which was originally written in Nahuatl by the Aztecs themselves, the surrounding tribes were so fed up of the slavery and their people being captured and sacrificed that when Cortez came, they joined him because they wanted it to end. And they're like, what do you mean your God is the example of the last human sacrifice, Jesus Christ? So drink this blood in honor of me and no more human sacrifices? And they're like, heck yeah, you know, we're all for that. But these people, they don't read the Bible. They don't read the Florentine Codex. And the idea that Mexico is called Mexico after the Mexica, which was Montezuma's tribe, is hideous in and of itself, because the vast majority of people were not Mexican, which was the Mexica tribe specifically, or Mexica, however you pronounce it. But again, all of these surrounding tribes joined up to help overthrow Cortez. The Spanish wouldn't have even gotten their ships up there to do their offensive without all of the tribes helping out. You know, they were totally done. So none of this stuff is brought up and discussed. It's like, oh, well, what the white Christians did to the... So what you're arguing is that your relative peace and your end of slavery and your end of human sacrifice that went on for who knows how long up until Montezuma, that you want that back? You know, that's the, you know, they destroyed our culture. Well, no, the Spanish came and your culture helped the Spanish, and the Spanish, like, I'm Danish and Welsh, that's not my culture, but, you know, suddenly Spanish are just white people, and never mind they're Moors and they're all these, you know, never mind that the Spaniards were overrun by Islam for
how many
700 years or so,
well,
you know,
Spanish Inquisition, right?
And it's also said that the Spanish language may be an amalgamation of Arabic, you know, but, you know, getting off topic there, but you know, they can't even look at the history before they come to these wild racist conclusions. It's like, really, did white people really bring slavery here? And then it doesn't take a whole lot of reading, and then they'll say, oh, well, those books were written by the Spanish, so therefore it's not true. There's always some spin
Always,
and
yes.
excuse,
Absolutely. No, it is sad. It is ridiculous. And some of the biggest socialists I know are the best capitalists. They have every gadget known to man, and they, hey Alexa this, and they got all that stuff, but yet and it's just like, it's so not self-aware, don't understand their place in the greater scheme of things, man. Things do not bode well for people under socialism. And so many of these people are, oh yeah, I'm a democratic socialist. It's like, yeah, that's no, you're not. And it's sad how many people just follow because it's cool now, and no concept. It's the man, it's
and you
greed.
can see how the Marxists, the Bolsheviks, the Nazis, the fascists, you can see the Maoists, how they recruited these young people and how every genocide took place. Like, I'm sitting here watching all of this stuff going on and how they're dehumanizing conservatives and Christians and all this stuff right now. And this is exactly what they do before every genocide.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Oh yeah. Well, you see it now. You see it now, even with police now. They shot that old man who was defending that pawn shop in where was it?
Minneapolis,
Milwaukee, in Minneapolis,
yeah.
Is there something? It just absolutely tragic.
And the guy's sitting there like, oh, what the hell, guys, over at TV? Who did this? Who shot him? And of course, they had already run off. And he was the former police chief.
Yeah, just shocking that life has no value for people. Yet George Floyd's life had so much value that it caused so much stuff, and it's riots and protests and burning down businesses. Lots of them were black owned, or people that relied on these businesses were African American people, and no concern for these individuals. No, but this one individual, we have to go over the top.
This one individual who is a lifetime criminal.
Yep. And career criminal. How many contacts with the police did this individual have? How many individual contacts did he have with the cops? And this is another thing. At what point are we going to ask and say, okay, what responsibility does the actual individual have? I've dealt with the cops. I've dealt with the police.
You cut out again.
Okay.
Repeat that last sentence again.
Yeah, my dealings with the police are generally pretty good, but I've had a few occasions where it's been, mouthy. I've gotten like, I'm going to rip you out of the car. Okay, yeah. But you have to understand, you're dealing with an armed individual at this point. And if any moves you make, I mean, you're responsible for your actions. And it's all about govern or be
Floyd
governed.
had committed armed robbery twice and held a woman, like we said earlier, at gunpoint, a pregnant woman at gunpoint with the gun held at her baby, at her stomach. And he spent like 6 years in prison for that, 5 or 6 years. So,
sure.
But this, again, going back, this is who they prop up
this
as
is the
their,
guy, like
as their hero.
Owens would say that as well. Like, why are we, holding these people up? And, nobody, I haven't heard one person defend the cop. And nor do I think, it was a pretty violent thing to see. And, I don't recommend that.
And at the same time, he was on fentanyl and meth. So
no, for sure, absolutely.
But have you also noticed how with Chauvin was a black cop, a Latino cop, and an Asian cop? But somehow these three are ignored, and it's all about white racism.
Well, even the guy, the Wendy's drive-through guy. I don't know if you saw that video
I did.
where. Okay, so now this police officer is being charged with murder, which is absolutely ridiculous because he had everything. This guy, the perpetrator, the guy who got killed, asked for that. He attacked these people. He tried to tase them. At what point do these people? At what point do they get to defend themselves?
Oh well, it's because he kicked him once he was already shot. And it's like, wait a second. So you know what? Let me find this, and then we're going to wrap it up here in a minute. But somebody had sent me a video last week that I want to show. And sorry, everybody, for being on FB jail. So I am getting your messages. I am still reading everything. I just can't respond still. I think I've got 7 or 8 days left. It's pretty ridiculous. By the way, I got banned for sharing a meme that was shared like 10,000 times, and it was all live splatter. And so I got 30-day Facebook jail for sharing that meme. No joke. So never mind that like half the people I know shared it. They didn't get in trouble. Just me for sharing that. So where the heck is it now? I'm not seeing his... Usually he pops up right at the top. He sends me so much stuff. I wonder if he, like, turned off his account for the one time I go look for his thing here. Jeez. Yeah, he must have, like, shut it off yesterday or something. I don't know. I'm not seeing him all of a sudden. It's like it's this guy in Budapest in Hungary. He's always sending me stuff. So I don't know. He sent me a really good video clip, though, that I wanted to play. And now, of course... I can't find him. So he gets on Facebook jail often as well. So I wonder if he got in trouble too.
Yeah, there seems to be quite a few people that I've noticed that are not there. I've been able to avoid that. I ask a lot of questions. I don't make a lot of. I try to keep it somewhat civil, but even though I try to be at least to provoke a discussion about things, and if we can define our terms. It was the very first one, and for whatever reason, I didn't scroll like this much up to see the top one. Hold on just a second. Yeah, go for it, man.
So this is upsetting. Let me see if this is going to play first. But for those of you who have children watching, you may not want to see this. So he sent me this the other day, and no, I don't want ads in Hungarian. Thank you. Majoriska. All right, so this is a shootout. Now, of course, it's not going to load. There's a video right here. Let me see if I can get it to load in another browser. Jeez. Figures that would happen right now when I want to show this thing. I don't know. It's like it doesn't want to show Hungarian-specific content, I guess. Let's see. All right, so here it is. So this is pretty upsetting, and these cops actually get shot, you know.
Okay. Do me a favor. Come over here. Don't place your hands behind your back. Stay. Place your hands. I got him. Keep the taser on. Stop resisting! Fuck. Keep the taser on. Get on your back! On your back! On your back! Get on your fucking back! My God! My God! Oh, goodness! Get the fuck on your back!
You know, so, of course, we don't see the media showing stuff like this, you know, and, that cop got shot, from 6 feet right off the bat.
Yep.
And then the shootout goes on for another 20, 30 seconds while the guy is sitting in the car, and the cop, dumps the whole magazine into the car, and the guy still drives off. And I think one of those cops died, if I recall, So, they're out there putting themselves on the line, and you never know. But, it's like, what I'd like to do is one day pull up all of the exact statistics and do a show on that. Maybe you and I can do a show on it, but
Sure,
show
yeah.
like, police on white shootings, police on black shootings, Asian, Latino, how many cops are killed, how many people are killed within each race and by each other, the other
Yeah.
races as well. So
Yeah.
no, that was not, the video is obviously in English, but it was from somebody sent it to me from a Hungarian website. So,
Right.
why isn't that making headline news here? But, I mean,
Well,
it's hideous. You see that cop just gets shot right away,
Yeah, no, that's tragic. And I, having spoke to a few police officers, I understand that they have rules that within engagement, any attacker, I think within a certain proximity, they are under an obligation to have to defend themselves, and rightly so. I mean, people, if you're dealing with the police, if in a traffic situation, or if they're going to talk to you about something, it's not over right then and there. So you don't, if they decide they're going to take you into custody, and this isn't legal advice, it's just, my understanding of things, that it's not over. It could be over if you resist arrest, but if you go along, I mean, there's recourse, right? And even if they want you to sign something, you don't have to. Even if you disagree, if you think that, if I go along, I'm going to tacitly agree to their authority, just under duress, fee coactus, against your will, without your consent, blah blah blah. You can go along and be civil without having to violently resist. I mean, that's not I don't think a good idea to violently resist the police. I don't recommend anybody do that. Civility.
Look at this, dude. So on the backup channel, there is 8 viewers and 27 thumbs down. It's like Steve Outram and these GDL guys. All these idiots do is they sit there logging into all of their fake accounts to
that's awesome.
to manipulate the view numbers and everything. It's so stupid.
Well, I appreciate getting such a high down vote for you. I apologize for that. But yeah, no, it was great. Thanks for inviting me on to unburden myself with all of this confusion, because I do feel sometimes where I'm just like overwhelmed by trying to make sense of this, and I just stay to the principles and try to see through. Don't deviate from the trivium, and stay true to that. And
Yep.
that's the way to go. At least,
Yep.
at least it's been my experience. But thank you again. I appreciate it.
Well, and thanks for coming back on. And
Yeah, man, no,
you
it's awesome.
haven't been on since the Logos Roundtable days, so that's been a few years. So
It has indeed.
So I appreciate you coming back on,
Thanks.
and good to have you. And we'll talk again soon. And folks, thanks for the support and the donations during the show. Logosmedia.com. If you'd like to support the show, please hit the subscribe and the little bell to get notifications down there at the bottom. Really appreciate your help and support. Please spread the word, and we'll see you next time. Take care, and good night, everybody.